Dyatlov Pass Incident. In February 1959, 9 experienced hikers from the Ural Polytechnic Institute set off on an expedition in the Ural Mountains of the Soviet Union. When they failed to return, a search party discovered their abandoned tent on the slopes of Kolochakal. The canvas was ripped open from the inside, and the hikers' belongings were left behind. Investigators found the bodies scattered in different locations, some barefoot and lightly clothed despite freezing temperatures. Autopsies revealed unusual injuries. 2 had fractured skulls, 2 had broken ribs with massive internal bleeding, and 1 woman was missing her tongue. Oddly, there were no external wounds corresponding to the internal trauma, as if they had been subjected to immense pressure. Some of the clothing tested positive for radiation. Hypotheses over the years have included an avalanche, military weapons testing, UFO encounters, or psychological panic leading the group to flee their shelter. In 2019, Russian authorities officially attributed the deaths to an avalanche, but experts continue to dispute this explanation, citing inconsistencies such as the angle of the slope and the distribution of injuries. The mystery persists, making the Dyatlov Pass incident one of the most unsettling unsolved events in modern history. Tunguska Event. On June 30, 1908, a massive explosion occurred over the sparsely populated Siberian taiga near the Podkamenaya Tunguska River. The blast flattened an estimated 80 million trees across more than 800 square miles, an area larger than some major cities. Eyewitnesses from miles away reported seeing a fireball streak across the sky, followed by a shockwave that knocked people off their feet and shattered windows. Scientists estimate the energy released was equivalent to 10 to 15 megatons of TNT, hundreds of times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Despite the scale of destruction, no impact crater was ever found. The leading theory suggests that a small asteroid or comet, about 160 to 200 feet wide, entered Earth's atmosphere and exploded midair at an altitude of 5 to 10 kilometers, creating what is known as an airburst. However, no definitive fragments were recovered to prove this explanation. Alternative ideas have ranged from volcanic gas eruptions to even more speculative claims involving black holes or alien craft. Modern computer models support the airburst scenario, but the absence of conclusive physical evidence keeps the Tunguska event classified as one of the greatest unexplained natural disasters of the 20th century. Taos hum. The Taos hum is a persistent, low-frequency sound reported in and around the town of Taos, New Mexico, since the early 1990s. Residents describe it as a faint, steady droning noise, similar to the distant hum of an idling diesel engine. What makes the phenomenon puzzling is that only about 2 to 3% of the population can hear it. Those who do report experiencing headaches, nausea, sleep disturbances, and general unease when the sound is present. To investigate, researchers from Los Alamos National Laboratory, the University of New Mexico, and other institutions conducted studies in 1993. They used sensitive microphones and sound equipment, but were unable to detect any consistent external source matching the reported hum. Theories have included high-pressure gas lines, industrial machinery, military communications, or even seismic activity, but none have been confirmed. Another possibility is a condition known as autoacoustic emissions, in which the human ear produces its own internal noise that some people perceive as external. However, this does not explain why many individuals in the same geographic area report hearing the sound simultaneously. With no measurable origin identified, the Taos hum remains an unresolved auditory mystery, an invisible presence haunting a specific community with no proven cause. Voynich Manuscript. The Voynich Manuscript is an illustrated codex written in an unknown script that has baffled linguists, cryptographers, and historians for over a century. Carbon dating places its creation in the early 15th century, around the 1400s. The manuscript is roughly 240 pages long, filled with strange symbols that form no recognizable language and accompanied by hundreds of illustrations. These drawings include unidentified plants, zodiac charts, bathing women in odd contraptions, and what appear to be astronomical or pharmaceutical diagrams. The book was rediscovered in 1912 by rare book dealer Wilfred Voynich after whom it is named. Despite decades of study, including efforts by top codebreakers during both world wars and modern computer algorithms, no one has successfully deciphered its text. Some scholars argue it could be a lost language or a cipher, while others believe it may be an elaborate hoax created to profit from the medieval manuscript trade. The illustrations complicate the matter further. Many plants do not match any known species, while the astronomical diagrams don't align perfectly with existing constellations. Currently housed at Yale University's Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library, the Voynich manuscript remains one of history's most enduring enigmas, defying translation and logical explanation. Wow! Signal. On August 15, 1977, a radio telescope at Ohio State University's Big Ear Observatory detected a 72-second signal coming from the constellation Sagittarius. The signal was so unusual that astronomer Jerry Eman circled it on the data printout and wrote "Wow" in the margin, giving it its famous name. What made the detection extraordinary was its strength and narrowband nature. Natural cosmic signals usually appear spread across many frequencies, but the "wow" signal was concentrated into a single narrow frequency, resembling something artificial. The signal measured 30 times stronger than the typical background noise and aligned closely with the hydrogen line frequency, a band of radio emission astronomers consider a logical hailing frequency for interstellar communication. Despite repeated follow-up searches, the exact signal has never been observed again. No nearby satellites, planets, or other natural sources have been identified to explain it. Theories range from a passing comet emitting hydrogen radiation to reflected signals from Earth-based transmitters to the possibility of extraterrestrial intelligence. None have been definitively proven. Because it occurred only once and left no repeatable trail, the "wow" signal stands as one of the most compelling yet unresolved mysteries in the search for life beyond Earth. Dancing Plague of 1518. In July 1518, residents of Strasbourg, then part of the Holy Roman Empire, were struck by a bizarre and uncontrollable compulsion to dance. It began when a woman named Frau Trophea stepped into the street and started dancing fervently. Within days, dozens of others had joined, moving non-stop for hours or even days, seemingly unable to control themselves. Historical records estimate that between 50 and 400 people became part of this strange phenomenon over the span of several weeks. The dancers often collapsed from exhaustion, and some reportedly died from strokes, heart attacks, or sheer fatigue. Local authorities believe the outbreak was caused by supernatural or spiritual forces, possibly divine punishment. Instead of restricting it, they encouraged more dancing, even hiring musicians and clearing halls to contain the outbreak, which only worsened the situation. Modern theories attempt to explain the mystery as mass hysteria triggered by stress, famine, or disease. Another hypothesis suggests ergot poisoning from contaminated rye bread, which can cause convulsions and hallucinations similar to LSD effects. However, neither theory fully accounts for the scale or duration of the event. The dancing plague remains one of history's strangest examples of collective, unexplained behavior. Sodder Children Disappearance. On Christmas Eve, 1945, a fire broke out in the Sodder family home in Fayetteville, West Virginia. George and Jenny Sodder, along with 9 of their 10 children, were inside when the blaze started. The parents and 4 children escaped, but 5 children, ranging in age from 5 to 14, were never found. What makes this case mysterious is that investigators never discovered any remains in the ashes. Normally, bones would have survived a house fire, but none were located, leading to suspicions that the children had not died in the fire at all. Witness accounts deepen the mystery. Some neighbors reported seeing the children in a car the night of the fire. Others claimed sightings of the missing children in different states in the years that followed. The Sodders also received strange phone calls and letters suggesting the children were alive. The family strongly believed the fire was deliberately set and that their children had been kidnapped, possibly due to George Sodder's outspoken political views against Mussolini. Despite investigations by the FBI and private detectives, no conclusive evidence ever surfaced. The Sodder children case remains unsolved, hovering between a tragic fire accident and a chilling abduction mystery. Oakville blobs. In August 1994, residents of Oakville, Washington, reported a strange gelatinous substance falling from the sky during several rainstorms. Unlike normal precipitation, this rain consisted of small, sticky, translucent blobs about the size of rice grains. People who came into contact with the material reported flu-like symptoms, nausea, and difficulty breathing. Even more troubling, pets and livestock exposed to the blobs became sick, and some died shortly afterward. Samples were collected and sent for laboratory analysis. Initial tests suggested the blobs contained human white blood cells, though this finding was later disputed. Another lab reported detecting bacteria, including some capable of infecting humans. Theories about the origin of the blobs range from military experiments involving bioweapons to waste discharged from airplanes to unusual atmospheric phenomena. The U.S. military's proximity to Oakville fueled speculation, as residents claimed to see increased aircraft activity during the events. Despite multiple investigations, no official explanation was ever confirmed, and the samples eventually degraded, preventing further study. With eyewitness accounts, health effects, and scientific inconsistencies, the Oakville blobs remain one of the strangest and most unsettling unexplained phenomena recorded in modern times. Black Knight Satellite. The Black Knight satellite refers to a mysterious object believed by some to orbit Earth in near-polar trajectory, first gaining attention in the mid-20th century. Reports date back as early as the 1950s when both U.S. and Soviet sources allegedly detected unexplained signals in space, which some claimed came from an artificial satellite before either country had launched one. In 1960, the U.S. Navy reported tracking an unknown dark object circling the planet, fueling rumors of a long-hidden extraterrestrial satellite. Photographs taken during the Space Shuttle Endeavour mission in 1998 intensified the mystery when NASA released images showing a strange, dark, irregularly shaped object floating in orbit. Conspiracy theorists quickly identified it as the Black Knight, suggesting it might be thousands of years old and possibly evidence of alien surveillance. NASA and mainstream scientists, however, attribute the images to space debris, specifically a thermal blanket lost during a shuttle mission. Still, the legend persists because of decades of scattered reports, unexplained radio signals, and the object's irregular appearance. The Black Knight satellite remains a cultural phenomenon where space exploration, conspiracy, and mystery collide, its true identity never definitively proven. Pollock twins reincarnation case. In 1957, tragedy struck the Pollock family in Hexham, England, when two young sisters, Joanna, age 11, and Jacqueline, age 6, were killed in a car accident. Their parents, John and Florence Pollock, were devastated. A year later, Florence gave birth to twin girls, Jillian and Jennifer. From a very young age, the twins began exhibiting behaviors and knowledge that puzzled their parents. Jennifer had birthmarks in the same locations as Jacqueline's scars, something not present at birth but appearing later. Both twins requested toys that had belonged to their deceased sisters, recognizing them by name without being told. They also described details of places they had never visited but were familiar to Joanna and Jacqueline. The most striking aspect was their sudden fear of cars, consistent with the way their older sisters had died. By age 5, the memories and behaviors associated with the deceased sisters began to fade, and the twins grew into ordinary children. Still, their early childhood patterns convinced many, including researchers studying reincarnation, that this case provided rare evidence for the survival of consciousness beyond death. The Pollock twins case remains one of the most famous and puzzling reincarnation mysteries ever recorded. Flight MH370 disappearance. On March 8, 2014, Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370 vanished during a routine flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. The Boeing 777, carrying 239 passengers and crew, lost contact with air traffic control less than an hour after takeoff. Radar and satellite data later suggested the plane deviated sharply from its course, turning west across the Malay Peninsula before heading south over the Indian Ocean. Despite one of the largest search operations in aviation history, no confirmed wreckage was found for over a year. Eventually, debris, including flaperones and wing fragments, washed ashore on islands in the western Indian Ocean, confirming the aircraft had crashed. However, the main wreckage and black boxes, critical for determining what happened, have never been recovered. Theories range from mechanical failure and pilot suicide to hijacking or even deliberate diversion. The sudden loss of communication systems and erratic flight path only deepened the uncertainty. Because no official cause has been proven, families of the victims remain without closure. MH370's disappearance stands as aviation's greatest unsolved mystery, raising questions about aircraft tracking systems and exposing vulnerabilities in global flight safety. To this day, the final moments of the flight remain unknown. Phoenix Lights. On the evening of March 13, 1997, thousands of people across Arizona and Nevada reported seeing an enormous formation of lights moving silently across the night sky. Witnesses described two main events. First, a massive V-shaped arrangement of lights traveling slowly and steadily, and second, a series of stationary glowing orbs that lingered over Phoenix for hours. Estimates suggested the V-shaped craft stretched as wide as a mile, dwarfing any known aircraft. Eyewitnesses included ordinary citizens, pilots, and even government officials. Many described the lights as attached to a solid object that blocked out stars as it passed overhead. Despite the scale of the sightings, military authorities initially dismissed the event, later claiming the stationary lights were flares dropped during training exercises at a nearby Air Force range. However, this explanation did not account for the enormous, structured V formation reported earlier in the evening. The Phoenix Lights remain one of the most widely witnessed and well-documented UFO events in modern history. The combination of thousands of testimonies, video footage, and the lack of a convincing official explanation continues to fuel speculation that the event may represent genuine contact with unidentified aerial phenomena. Battle of Los Angeles. In the early hours of February 25, 1942, just months after the attack on Pearl Harbor, air raid sirens wailed across Los Angeles as military defenses reported unidentified objects in the sky. Searchlights scanned the night. Anti-aircraft guns fired more than 1,400 rounds, and residents rushed into shelters, believing the city was under attack. The barrage lasted several hours, yet no enemy aircraft were ever confirmed, and no bombs were dropped. The chaos caused damage on the ground, including property destruction from falling shell fragments, and 5 civilian deaths resulted from accidents and heart attacks during the panic. Initially, officials claimed the incident was triggered by nerves and false alarms, possibly sparked by weather balloons or misidentified aircraft. However, the sheer scale of the military response, combined with eyewitness reports of glowing objects and formations, led to decades of speculation. Some argue it was a case of mass hysteria fueled by wartime tension. Others suggest the possibility of experimental aircraft or even unidentified flying objects. Since no conclusive explanation has ever been provided, the Battle of Los Angeles remains one of the most mysterious homefront incidents of World War II. Oumuamua, interstellar object. In October 2017, astronomers using the Pan-STARRS 1 telescope in Hawaii detected a strange object passing through our solar system. Named Oumuamua, meaning scout or messenger in Hawaiian, it was the first confirmed interstellar object ever observed. Unlike asteroids or comets native to our system, its hyperbolic trajectory proved it came from beyond. Measuring about 800 meters long but only a fraction as wide, Oumuamua had an elongated cigar-like shape, or possibly a flat pancake-like form depending on interpretation of its light curves. What puzzled scientists most was its behavior. Oumuamua accelerated slightly as it traveled, as if pushed by some unknown force. Normally, comets display such acceleration due to outgassing, jets of vapor released by melting ice, but no visible coma or tail was detected. Some researchers suggested it might be composed of hydrogen or nitrogen ice, sublimating in ways invisible to telescopes. Others speculated it could be artificial, perhaps a probe or fragment of alien technology, though this remains highly controversial. Oumuamua left the solar system too quickly for close study, and no definitive answers were obtained. Its brief visit opened a new chapter in astronomy, highlighting the mysteries carried by objects from beyond our solar neighborhood.